Hey now everybody, welcome back to Brand New Take Aim. Excited to have Mike Stephan back on the show. Mike's one of my good buddies from the outdoor industry. He's one of the best outdoor cameraman, editors, producer there is out there today. Mike is also one of the best hunters I know. He's a great deer hunter, bow hunter, and turkey hunter. So hopefully you guys enjoy the show. All right, guys, we're back. New episode of Take Aim podcast, and always excited to have Mike Stephan on from Bear Ridge Media. Mike, what's happening?
Oh, not a whole lot, man. Just been enjoying this spring. Finally, the weather's kind of breaking, and things are starting to warm up and green up here. So,
I hear you. What's the temp going on in Kansas?
Today, I think it's supposed to be up in the 70s, which is a lot warmer than it's been recently, so
yeah,
it'll be nice.
That's what I was going to ask you, man. We've been stuck in winter until about mid last week. I'm not even kidding you. Probably last Thursday.
Yeah, it's been pretty much the same here. We had some snow in April and had some record lows, so it was pretty wild.
I know. It was probably Thursday or Friday. I'd put a picture up on my Instagram story of me in the turkey blind. It was 29 degrees. Come on.
Oh. That's wild, man.
I'm not even kidding you. So it's been rough, man. That makes it pretty hard. So when did your turkey season start? And does Kansas turkey kind of like Kansas deer? Do you have zones and units, so to speak?
Yeah, there's definitely units, and there's not as many units as the deer units in Kansas, but there's a few units throughout the state. And we have eastern turkeys, in the eastern part of the state, and then the farther west you go, you start running into some Rios. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that is. Have you ever done that?
I've never killed a Rio in Kansas. I've killed one down in Oklahoma last year. But,
okay.
Yeah, I haven't gone out west to try and get after any Rios in Kansas.
Yeah, that's cool. I know you guys also, I don't think in majority of the state, but in a small part of the state, you guys have a hybrid bird too.
Yeah, I'm sure where there's some intermingling between the Easterns and Rios, there's going to be some hybrids as well.
Yeah, for sure, which is kind of cool. It's like an extra subspecies, so to speak.
Yeah, no doubt.
So when did your season start?
The shotgun season started April 18th. Before that, obviously the youth season started, I believe, April 1st, and then archery season started a little bit after that. So It's kind of been staggered as far as when the season started.
And how long does your guys' season last?
It runs up to the end of May.
Oh, dang, that's cool. Wow.
Yeah, it's definitely a long season. If if you're not able to get out there a whole lot, if you're a weekend warrior, it definitely makes things a little bit easier to get in the woods. Yeah,
that does for sure. Now, are you guys allowed more than one bird? Is it two, I believe? You guys
we're allowed two male birds, and in the spring, if there's a bearded hen, you can shoot that. But other than that, no female birds.
Oh, okay. Now, is that in addition to the two, or that is substitute one of the two if you shoot a bearded hen?
That would substitute one of the two.
Okay, I gotcha. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, we kind of, if you ask me, we have actually there's probably too many seasons, between Michigan, because they divide us in so many different parts. We're in the lower peninsula in the lower section, most southern section. So we have a season. And then there's a same season if you're hunting public land or public and private. And then they do the same thing up north And a lot of these dates like overmingle, which is really weird. But they separate the tags. So like I have a private land only tag, so I cannot, which I think is just dumb, so to speak. I can't step foot with a bow in my hand or gun in my hand on public land at all, which is just crazy. And
yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it doesn't. And it starts on a Monday, so like you're talking about the working man, starts on a Monday, so you're pretty much screwed, for 5 days, unless you get to live somewhere where there's turkeys and maybe catch an evening hunt. And then it's only open 2 weekends. So I roughly have 14 days, two work weeks, so to speak, and 2 weekends, and that's it.
That's crazy. That doesn't give you much opportunity at all.
No, and then if I didn't want that tag, I can take the late season, which starts May, 1st, and then ends on the 30th. Same thing, private land only. But, I don't understand why we can't hunt the extra or, all of May. I don't understand why we have so many dang seasons, and it's just crazy. Historically, I always thought it was crazy. This year, I'm like, okay, I can see it just because I really feel we have a huge lack of birds this year. I don't know how your guys' population's doing, but this year in the lower where I am, which is all agriculture, and it could be several things. It could be predation. It could be just a bad hatch last year, or it could be several years of guys just overhunting, And on top of that, all the farmers out here are just destroying habitat nonstop, trying to put extra rows of corn in, which I don't think helps either. Or any kind of food. They're just every fence row is being tore out right now as we speak everywhere, and that just doesn't help.
Yeah, that's definitely happening around us too, and it makes me cringe every time I see another bulldozer going through somebody's fence row. Because it hurts the turkeys, but it also hurts the smaller birds, the pheasants, the quail. It's great habitat for a lot of different animals, and it just keeps getting pushed back and pushed back. But our numbers this year seem to be actually pretty good where I'm at. It's funny, on the farm that I hunt, the birds tend to group up in the wintertime, and they winter on our property. So I'll have dang near 200 birds living on my 120 acres. And then obviously once the spring starts to get here and the birds start kind of getting antsy, the toms will start fighting each other and dispersing across, around the area. And then typically, I'm looking at 2, 3, or 4 birds that are living on the property, and then a few hens. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic to watch as the birds disperse every year.
It is crazy. What do you think makes you guys hold the birds in the winter?
This year specifically, I know we left about a half an acre of standing beans, and our fields didn't get plowed, which is something that I actually talked with the farmer about making sure he didn't do until later in the year, because in previous years, the farmer would come in right after harvest and plow all the fields down, and that just destroyed the ability to hold animals, deer or turkey, on the property because you didn't have a food source. So this year, definitely the leaving the fields alone and then that half acre of standing beans helped dramatically.
Yeah, for sure. That's huge, man. And you're like so right on about, when they come in and we call it chisel plow, but when they plow or chisel plow out here, it's over. It ends it. And it pretty much ends whatever side of the property that you can hunt butts to that field. It kills the deer movement and like you said, turkey movement as well. Like nothing I've ever seen. It's pretty amazing. It's almost funny, like when you walk through and you actually see a track and you're like, a deer did use it or a turkey, because it's just so random.
Yeah.
But, to go along with that, what you said, Mike, too, about the fence rows, yeah, you're spot on, man. It's so gut-wrenching to me as well, because it's home to so many animals, from the basic brown squirrel to rabbits, and all those small birds that you talked about that need homes. It just kind of, it just really makes me sad. That's one of the saddest things about, day to day, when I'm out, I see it all the time, and every time I see it, man, I shrug my shoulders and shake my head. It just drives me absolutely insane. I'm like, what are you going to get? 2 more rows in? I just don't understand, I guess, the economics behind it.
Yeah, it's really odd to me to see those fence rows get pulled out, and I mean, sometimes it makes sense if that fence happens to be, a pretty terrible fence and you need to put something new in because you're trying to keep the cows or whatever in, that makes sense. But a lot of times I just see fence rows just completely ripped out and they're not even putting cows on it. So it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, out here it's not about cows, it's about farming. It's about agriculture. We have way less cow kind of farming or cow yards out here. Occasionally you see a small acre with some, dairy cows on it, but nothing big kind of mainstream commercial size. Like, we don't have that. So it's all about just putting in extra agriculture out here, which again just makes me sad. And I guess, like I was saying, I don't understand the value of you having to go get a tractor and tear that field up, the time and effort to get an extra row in. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty crazy.
For sure. But so give me a little rundown on kind of how you like to turkey hunt and maybe how you set up being, by trade, Mike's one of the best cameramans I've ever seen. Mike, run us through your setup and kind of how you kind of navigate inside a blind and trying to film turkeys.
Sure. Basically, I mean, if you're set up in a blind, you obviously want to be in a spot where the turkeys are eventually going to make it over to you. If you're trying to get them right off the roost, that's always a possibility, but a lot of times blind setups are better kind of in an area where the birds are moving to after they've gotten down off the roost. Just so they're passing through, and then, a couple decoys out there to get their attention and a little bit of calling. I tend to find that the less calling you do on the birds that I am hunting anyway, the better. It seems to really entice those toms into actually coming in and checking things out, whereas if you're calling and he keeps gobbling, he's just going to sit there and wait for you to come to him. So, anyway, the blind situation, actually this year I didn't even sit in any blinds. I went out and tried to run and gun with my camera and just threw like some camo netting over the top of my camera and me, and then was just basically trying to self-film, and it failed miserably because even with the camo netting over the camera and everything, those birds they know when they see something in the woods that just doesn't look right. So my big blob of camo netting kind of keeps them from coming in too close. I had a pretty close call the other evening. I had a bird come out into this field in front of me, and I was kind of tucked back in the woods a little ways, and my decoys were in the woods. And he came out into the field and then went back into the woods, and I was calling, and he was not gobbling at all. And then I was still fidgeting around with my setup with my gun, because I was trying to shoot with my camera and shoot with my shotgun. And I had my shotgun laid over to my right side, and I was fidgeting around with the camera, and I hear some leaves crunching off to my left, and I turn my head to the left, and this bird is coming in, and he ends up standing at like 10 yards, looking towards my decoys, but realizing that I was there because I was fidgeting around with the camera, and I couldn't get my gun swung over to my left side fast enough, and he took off. And I gave him a couple yelps and stuff because I don't think he was real spooked yet, but he was definitely not coming in. And then a little while later, he popped back out in that field in front of me and just kind of walked across the field didn't pay any attention to me or anything I was doing, and went into the woods on the opposite side of the field. And then towards evening, when it was getting closer to the point where those birds were going to start roosting, he pops right back out into that field in full strut, trying to get, the calls that I was making and the decoys that I had, trying to get that hen to pop out and, follow him. And I just lightly was giving him some purrs and stuff on my slate call, and he came right in, full strut, walking all the way into my decoys. And about the time he got to my decoys, he looked up and saw my blob again of camo netting and took off, and I couldn't raise my gun quick enough to get on him. But it was still a pretty neat experience, and I did get some footage of it, and planning on actually posting that later today. So
yeah, that's really cool. Sometimes, I think majority of us, I hear a lot of it kind of, talk about, how dumb turkeys are or easy it is. And sometimes you're right, if or they're right, if you have one of those magical hunts, it's so easy and people take it for granted, like that's the way turkey hunting is. And it's not like, at least for me, maybe because of the lack of birds in the very southern part of Michigan here, I work every year my butt off for them. And I had the same experience the other day, Mike. On Saturday, late afternoon, it was about 11:30, and a bird came out. He's 70 yards away, and nothing huge, but with the bow, I would have shot him. I think he was a 3-year-old Tom, probably 8-9 inch beard. And he walked kitty corner from me, was coming down the hill, and had a lot of interest in the decoy setup. And I had a feeling he was going to come over to me. And maybe it's just coincidence or whatever, but I did the same thing. I just reached up to fidget with the camera and hit the record button, and that was it. He was gone. The exact same instance I put my hand up to get the camera. So sometimes I think we don't give them enough credit. They know when stuff's not right. They're a smarter animal than I think a lot of people give them credit for.
Oh yeah. They're definitely very, very aware of their surroundings, and any movement at all that they catch, it's pretty much over. It's pretty incredible to watch the birds just pick apart the landscape pretty easily.
Yeah, they do, man. Their eyesight's impeccable, and it, for me and you, we already know that, but you don't have a choice, right? You're going to try to film, you got to get your hand up or hit the record or pan the camera left or right, and man, they don't give you any gimmies at all.
Yep, that's for sure.
So, do you do anything? Which is funny you said that about the big blob. I was going to get some camo. Actually, I got it and threw it in my truck. I was going to do the same thing, try to switch up my technique and run and gun some, but I was going to do the exact same thing. So that kind of makes me not want to do it because you're not having success with it. But I had got one of those camo burlap kind of screens like that and was going to do the same thing. But like you said, they know what's going on and it's pretty obvious to them.
Yeah, it just depends on your setup and your backdrop. I was set up against a pretty large tree, and I thought I was pretty well, tucked back
covered
in there.
Yeah.
It's just every situation is going to be different. Every bird's going to be different. But and I know you can pull it off. I've done the netting thing quite a bit, over the years, and with filming turkey hunts and whatnot. It was honestly more about me trying to film and shoot, and moving around more than what
Sure.
you typically want to do, moving around when you're turkey hunting.
Right. Yeah, it's fair enough. You cannot move. That's just, especially their eyesight's so great, and you said that bird was 10 yards. It just, like I said, there's no gimmies. They're not going to let you have it.
Yeah, and the only time I've ever gotten away with movement is once a bird is locked in on a decoy and is, beating him up or trying to breed your hen decoy or something like that. His focus is so specific on those decoys that sometimes you can get away with some movement. But other than that, they're coming in super cautious.
Yeah, for sure they are. Do you do anything special, Mike, like, ground blind, like inside of the blind, like a double bull type? Do you do anything special for turkeys hunting out of one of those?
Usually it's just, a chair to sit in and my tripod set up so that, it's the right height for me to run the camera through the opening. But other than that, that's kind of my typical setup when I'm in a blind.
Yeah. Do you do, explain your setup inside the blind? Do you do anything, particular that you just have found that works for you? Do you tuck all the way back in the blind, and, how do you run through all that stuff?
Yeah, I would definitely say tucking back as far back in the blind as you can is better, because you're keeping those shadows on you. You want to try and wear, dark clothing, preferably something black. Even on your hands when you're running the camera, if your hand is up, on the lens or whatever, messing with the focus and stuff like that, you got to be covered, because they can pick out that sheen that comes, off of even your skin. Wear a face mask, because they can even pick up, the sheen off of your face. So just as concealed as possible and as dark as possible, and obviously keep the movement to a minimum, and when you do move, just do it extremely, extremely slow.
Yeah, exactly. That's all you can do. I mean, that what you said is key. That's what I've been doing all week in the ground blind as well. And I had a really, I don't know, maybe Friday morning, I believe, I had a really cool encounter. Had 4 jakes come in. One was a double beard, which is really neat. So he's going to be a really cool bird here in a year or two. And pretty obvious double beard too. So like he's going to be really cool. But
Nice.
They were 5 yards from the blind. Paid some attention to it, but also that the decoy situation helped so much that they were trying to focus on both and couldn't really do it. So you could have easily got your gun up or bow back and probably got a shot off, but it was really neat just to have them kind of that close, and they come running from, I don't know, 40, 50 yards away, almost full speed. So from a distance, they weren't cautious of that blind at all. They didn't really get cautious of it till they got up, like I said, within 5 yards of me. At that point, I just didn't really move, because, I wasn't going to shoot them. The one bird did, I was trying to get a little footage on my phone, and, all I did was raise it above the blind line where the window crest is, and they were like, well, enough of that. They stood around for an extra 10 or 15 seconds, and they're like, we're out of here. But it just, one of the things with bow hunting, especially out of those, double bull type of style of blinds, is they're just not, very mobile, even though it's easy for us to get them up and stuff like that. But when you add, a bow in your hand, a release, the size of that blind, 1 or 2 chairs, usually 2 chairs for me, and then a tripod, it's not like you can just tear it down and run and gun. Like you got to be really kind of like thought out a little bit with that plan if you're going to move again.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the thing about trying to run a camera and on your own hunt, is you get loaded down with gear, and it's definitely a lot harder to do the run and gun style turkey hunting.
It is. Like, I mean, the next spot I can hunt, which is the same farm, but you can't get there. I have to come out on the 2-track or the cattle trail, have to come out to the main road, go down another side road, and then stop and pull over because I can't drive to this part of the timber, especially if the crops are up or they just plowed or planted. So I would literally have to quit my morning hunt, an hour early, and then pull everything down. Hopefully I had enough time before I have to head to work, and then probably give up the next morning and get it back up again. You know what I mean? So it is I think that's one of the reasons, you almost have to either grind it out and have faith in your setup from the get-go, or almost pick a different path, or you got to take a freaking half a day to get that stuff moved, because like you said, with camera gear, it's just so much effort.
Yeah, it definitely is. It can you can get loaded down pretty quick when you start adding the camera.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's very cool, though, that you guys have that ample amount of time to chase them. I'm like panicking because I have till Sunday, but I'm actually headed vacation on Saturday afternoon. So Saturday morning is it for me. So I'm feeling the heat a little bit, but cool for you, though. You got plenty of time yet.
Yeah. It's obviously the earlier in the season you can get it done, the better it is, because those birds haven't been habitualized with the guys in the woods shooting at them and whatnot. But you can sometimes get it done later in the season, if especially if you start. Those hens are going to be going out and laying their eggs in the middle of the day, and that gives you an opportunity to get some of those lone toms that are looking for love to potentially call those in. And midday, I think, is one of the best times on trying to get those lone toms in.
It is, like the other mornings, that Saturday when I got close to that bird at 11:30, it was actually 11:38, so it's real later in the day, like you said, almost afternoon. I'm not sure if it was the bird. I saw Tom early in the morning, roughly 7 to 7:30-ish. He was on a hen, and of course I couldn't call him away. He was 300 yards away to the east, but he was heading south, and this bird came from the south. So I don't know, he could have made a giant loop, and it could have been the same bird, and he had broken away from the hen. But either way, it was a bird that was away from hens, and he was out looking again. So, if you can grind it out, even though a 5:30 a.m. wake-up call to get in a ground blind, it's a long day at 10 o'clock already. You know what I mean? But if you can grind it out from 10 to 2 sometimes, man, it's key.
Yeah, for sure. I would completely agree with you on that.
Some days I wish I'd almost sleep in and just hunt like that, to be honest.
I've done it a few times. The nice thing about going out in the morning, though, is knowing that you've got birds in the area, because they often change their roosts so much that, you could go into a farm that you have a bunch of birds roosted in one spot one day, and the next day they've moved down into somebody else's place. So it's definitely nice to be able to get those birds right off the roost and at least know they're in the area.
Yeah, 100%. That's the main reason you hunt the mornings. It's, for one, you hope anyways you might get a hot one that has disconnected from those hens, but it's like you said, to keep track of them, to see where they're moving and re-roosting at. So what do you like to do in the mornings, Mike, as far as kind of closing the distance on the roost? Do you make a owl call in the mornings, or do you kind of have a general idea from the night before?
Usually when I go in the morning, I don't have to make any calls, because they already start gobbling by themselves. So I just kind of wait for them to start making noise and then kind of move in on them. I try not to get too close because you don't want to bust them out, but setting up in where there's an open field of some sort that they might fly down into is typically how I like to set up. I know a lot of times the birds will fly down into the timber and be set up down in there, but generally you're going to get them they'll fly down into an open field, at least first right in the morning.
Yeah, I do a little bit of both. I'll try to if I'm not bow hunting, so to speak, I will literally sometimes go in blind, and I won't sit down, I won't do anything. When I say blind, I mean not knowing where the birds are roosting, but I will literally go and just wait for them to talk to me, and then I'll try to close the distance. If it's not so bright out, I'll try to get in as close as I can, and then work from there. To me, that's just fun. That just kind of the unknown sometimes of just going out there and doing it.
Yeah, for sure. It can be really exciting.
Now, bow hunting wise, out of a blind, you kind of, last week I had scouted that field, Mike, 3 days, all 3 mornings. Strutters were in that field, which would be all 3 days within 50 yards each way of my blind, where it's set up now, so to speak. And of course, opening day, and since then, that they haven't done that once in the morning. So it's crazy. They're just so unpredictable.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's more often than not how it works out.
Yeah, for sure. It does. Well, change gears a little bit, Mike. What do you got going on as far as any cool work coming up in the next year or this coming season, so to speak?
Currently, right now, I don't have a whole lot on the books. It's kind of been a weird spring for me. Usually I've got at least a few turkey hunts lined up or something along those lines, maybe even a spring bear hunt. But the industry's kind of in a weird place right now. And, obviously the closer we get to fall, the more stuff lines up, for that time of year. But it's been a little tough for me this year, and I've been trying to branch out and not do just hunting related stuff. I've work on some projects locally here in Kansas City, some commercial projects and whatnot, and I've kind of got the word out about doing some weddings through the summer, and just trying to survive. As a small business owner, it's kind of tough right now.
Yeah, it is, for sure. Yeah, I know it's just so weird, the hunting industry. I mean, there's a couple big changes going on, but on your side of things, Mike, you're kind of more referring to the change from TV to like the online and social media platforms, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really weird, especially for you, because a lot of these guys now are doing so much content just, from a phone. And how does somebody like you that can run a red camera combat that?
Yeah, it's tough. Basically, I'm going to have to change things up a little bit in how I approach, my filming. Obviously, I'm trying to target more, more commercial work and stuff that needs to be high quality. I'm not opposed to doing the online stuff, YouTube channels and whatnot. It's just not always cost effective for me.
Right. Yeah, especially right now. I mean, you are set up with, very premium professional gear. And I'm sure, like, especially being in the greater Kansas City area, there's plenty of other work outside the hunting industry, so to speak, that can utilize, a guy of your caliber with that kind of gear. Because it like you said, it's sad, but the reality is, the iPhone is changed the hunting industry, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really all about networking anymore. That's always been part of it, but the more people the more likely it is that you're going to get a phone call for some work. So that's what I've been really trying to work on lately, is just meeting as many people as I can. Even if I go into a job, at a much lower daily rate than I normally get, just to meet new people, and potentially get more work.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great thing, and I know that sometimes, as your friend, like, there's times I see you, on social media, and times I don't. So, and probably the same with me. I think the older I get, the less I want to be. You almost feel like it's a kid's game, and I got to remind myself to keep trying to put out some sort of content, because you fade away, and if you're not physically talking to somebody in the industry, it's easy for them to forget about you, sadly.
It is. It's very easy. I'm a terrible self-promoter. I don't generally like to do it because that's just not the type of person that I am. But I know that is something I need to work on because, you got to keep putting out content and interacting with people through social media. Otherwise, your stuff just starts to fall off of people's news feeds. And, that when that happens, you see it impact how many phone calls and emails you're getting.
Yeah, you do. It's amazing. It really is. But anyways, I mean, it almost sounds like it's a negative thing, but I guess it's just old dogs trying to learn new tricks and stay relevant, and you got to look at it that way and set the goal and keep moving forward. And I got to do the same thing for whatever reason, and maybe it's social media is part of it, that I've stopped networking a little bit too much the past year, and I'm like, man, I got to get off my arse, so to speak, and start reaching out to people again, because I just had kind of gotten away from it. But I think it's easy to do when you scroll through and you hit double tap and like somebody's photo that you think you're connected, but you're really not.
Yeah. There's a lot more to it. Commenting is huge. The more you comment on a post, the more likelihood other people are going to see it. Not just going in and liking it is sufficient anymore. So, yeah, man, you got to keep at it. The industry changes, the world changes, so you gotta change with it, or you're just gonna die out. It's always gonna change. So if you don't change with it, unfortunately, it's not gonna work out too well for you.
No, it's not really. But sadly, Mike, I gotta run here. I got a meeting. Somebody's coming in for personal training here at the gym, so I got to get with it. But I got like 5 minutes left, but I know you've been in and out of the gym. What's going on with that? How you been training-wise?
That has been one of the greatest things I've done for myself in recent couple of years. I knew it was something that I needed to start doing because, I was definitely overweight and not in great shape. And obviously for what I do, carrying around the gear I do and the places that I do, it was taking a toll on me. And I have absolutely become obsessed with trying to stay in the gym at least 3 times a week. And I know it's drastically helped my health, and I've lost quite a bit of weight, and I feel better than ever right now. So I would definitely suggest it to anyone. Just any kind of physical activity that you can do, it's gonna alter a lot in your body and alter your mood as well. I've noticed that I just feel better mentally, and that's definitely helped me out.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think about it all the time, and it's kind of crazy to me how many guys I see inside the hunting industry that are really out of shape, so to speak. And I'm like, man, I know how much effort this is, how much work it is. And just today, before I even got out of the woods, I had already clocked almost 10,000 steps. I think it was 8,000 steps. And I was even limited. I wasn't running and gunning. I just basically, that was to the truck, to where I was going to hunt this morning, came back without even running and gunning. So with gear, it kind of blows my mind sometimes that guys take it for granted and don't want to make their hunts easier, so to speak. You know what I mean? But with you, man, I'm super proud of you, and just want to let you know that I'm super proud that you're training and taking your health serious, and couldn't be more excited when I see you post about it. So keep it up, buddy.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. So I know when I see you deadlifting, I'm like, man, I need a deadlift, because that's one of the stupid exercises I just shy away from for some reason. But keep posting those videos, man, and keep taking your health serious.
Yeah, I will. No doubt, man. Love it.
Well, good luck the rest of turkey season, Mike, and anytime you want to, we need to get together, man. It's been a few years, and hang out, and maybe go film something and kill something. Yeah,
that'd be fun, man. I'm down.
Let's do it. So let everybody know where they can find you, Mike, on Instagram, Facebook, and whatnot.
Yeah, Instagram. My personal page is at Shotgun Mike. That's Shotgun Mike, no E at the end. And my business page is at Bear Ridge Media. And through Facebook, Mike Stephan, Stephan, and Bear Ridge Media as well on there. So those are the best ways to keep up with what I've got going on.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Mike. Good luck the rest of turkey season, man. Keep me updated.
Thank you. You too, man.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.